Hello, my name is Manu from Italy Made Easy, and today I'm here to talk to you about language learning in general, not just Italian, but of course if you're learning Italian with me, you will find this series very useful, especially if you're a beginner. In the next few videos, I'm going to share the best tips I have as a linguist and somebody who's learned a bunch of languages to help you pick up a language, any language that you're starting to study now. Our first tip is something extremely controversial because it's got to do with grammar. Now, should you learn grammar? Should you not learn grammar? Now, every language is made up of three things. That's oversimplifying, obviously, but you have your vocabulary, the things that you talk about, the sounds of the language, the pronunciation, and then you have the grammar, the things that make up the structure of the sentence and all those amazing things. Should you bother with learning grammar? Yes, you should, but it should not be the focus of your learning. You should spend the first few months of your approach to a new language learning the grammar. It is essential that you understand how a language works. In the example of Italian, you would definitely have to learn that there is gender, that every word has a gender, and that we have 7 ways of saying the. You would have to learn how to conjugate verbs. You would have to know how to use the present tense, how to speak in the past. So yes, you do need to study the grammar. But if you're studying a language to communicate, which I think that's the reason you're studying any language, then make grammar the beginning of your journey, but not the ultimate goal. As grown-ups, we often get stuck in just wanting to learn, but we're not using the language. So yes, learn the grammar, but here's the controversial bit. Let's say you're studying Italian with me or with anybody else. I highly recommend that you study the grammar in your own language. So if you're a native English speaker, please study Italian grammar or French grammar or Japanese grammar in your own language, in English. Now this is counterintuitive because you might think, well, I'm learning Italian, I should be doing everything in Italian. Wrong. This is based on the wrong idea that has been pushed so much by big corporations. I'm not going to name names, but they want you to buy the products. So they talked about the immersion method. So you should learn a language like you learned your own language, right? No, totally not. Totally wrong. See, yes, it's true that a child picks up the mother tongue or the native language by listening because they're not going to study the grammar, so you should do the same. That is really a waste of time. Think about it. A child doesn't do much. They eat and they poo. That's all they do. They cry sometimes, right? And they smile, they're cute. But they have no real skills and they have no knowledge of life, of social interaction. They have no reference about general culture. And most of all, they don't know a language. That is the only way they can learn the language. But think about it. How long does it take a child to become eloquent, for a child to be able to articulate? It depends on the child, but you may have to wait until they're 8, 10 before they can really talk to you like a grown-up. Do you have 10 years to learn Italian, French, Japanese? I guess you are a little bit in a hurry. You want to be able to speak it in 6 months' time, right? Or in a year's time. So do not use the immersion approach. You will be wasting your time. Here's an example. I know that if I spoke Italian to you from day one, you would learn a lot of things, and that's great, but it would probably take you a couple of weeks for you to understand when Italian uses one of the 7 ways of saying the. Why? Because nobody is explaining to you, so you'll be paying attention to what I say, and you would come up with an idea of why, and you would never be sure if you're using the right the. Let's say it takes you 2 weeks to figure it out. That's an optimistic estimate. How about I explain to you how to use the Italian definite article, that's the, in 10 minutes? Well, how's 10 minutes as opposed to 2 weeks? Of course, you have to be explained how things work in your own language. It's much quicker. Please do not waste your time believing that immersion is the way to go. It's not. Why should you be listening to me, by the way? Well, I myself have picked up a few languages. I'm speaking to you in a foreign language. I studied at a very prestigious, if I may say so, university in Italy, in Trieste, and I graduated in translation And what we did for 5 years was not just languages, but we learned the theory of language learning and linguistics and philology and translation theory. We learned a bunch of things, and I can tell you, never in any of my 5 years as a student or in my 10 years as an academic has it really been shown to me that explaining the grammar in the language that you're learning is useful. It's just not. Okay, so this was my first tip. I know it's counterintuitive and it's very unpopular, but it is the best way for you to fast track your learning. So that's it for this first tip. I invite you to watch the rest of the series where we look at another handful of tips to help you pick up a language really, really quick. Ciao, ciao. Now, a lot of people get caught up in the fluent myth. I want to be fluent in French. I want to be fluent in Italian. I want to be fluent in Chinese.